Hi, it's David from Bantenna. I want to show you the Loftenna. I'm selling quite a few of these now. I'm not getting many reports back on them, like on the sleeves. People keep telling me they're working Brazil and Hawaii on the sleeves, which I'm not surprised about. And I just want to look at the Bantenna in a little bit more detail, because when you get it, it can look quite daunting. Now, when you get the Bantenna, it comes in the case in a cardboard box, and what you will unwrap from the plastic is this. You'll get this is the unun, complete with counterpoises, and this is the antenna itself, and that looks quite daunting. It can look like a mess, but what you've got here, before you start undoing the tape, just be sure that you know what you've got. So you've got two poles, and these will go at the end. There's one at each end of the antenna, and they stand vertically. You've got the cable. This is the antenna itself, and it runs from one end of the antenna, this end, in fact this is the starting end, so it runs from this end of the antenna all the way along the length, 6 meters, to this end, and then down the tube and then back out. So what you end up with is actually one top length of wire and a bottom length of wire, but they're contiguous. On each plastic tube you've got the bridle string. This is just a cord, and there's one on this tube and there's one on this tube, and they look as if they're all messy and tangled up, but they're not. Okay, they're not. There's no reason why these things should be tangled. And the way to do it, I think, is to first, let's just get this out of the way. Here we go. Well, get rid of the unun for a start, because we don't need that. And then start to take off. I would take off the tape that holds together both tubes. If you take this tape off, then what you will end up with is two separate tubes, one like this, which will have a coil of wire fastened to it, and then the other one which will have another coil of wire fastened to it. Before you undo the coils of wire, the coils of wire themselves are fastened in a coil using a tie wrap, so you can safely remove the tape because you've got the tie wrap. So you'll end up with a coil of wire tied with a tie wrap. Then what you need to do is to stretch out the first of the bridles, these bits of string here. This is all tangled up, I apologise for that, this has just been in my workshop. Now these, the way these work is that obviously they fasten from here round the loop to here, and if you stand them up so that this is at the bottom like that, because that's how it's going to go in your loft, with this at the bottom dangling like that, then the bridle, the yellow string in this case, will come out and will fasten to your support. So I've just rigged this one up for you. If you undo the cord on the first antenna, what you end up with is that the bridle is structured so that the mast is held vertically when it's fastened to your support. So you end up with that. So that's in your loft. So then you'll end up with that, and the wire coiled still with its tie wrap fastened to the other mast. If you now undo those and gently walk away with your antenna until the other end is at the other support, which is here, you'll end up with your antenna stretched out in your loft like that. The end with the wire tag on here is where your unun goes. So once you're in the loft space, then you've got one end of your antenna, the end with this on it, is where you'll feed the coax to. So that'll be tied off to your loft. Now you've got quite a long bridle. Feel free to change the length of the bridles. You'll see that I've simply used nylon cord knotted to the plastic masts. I'm a great fan of knots. I'm a kite flyer and a kite builder, so knots, and a sailor as well. So knots are good. They're not a cheap alternative. They're good for this application. But if you need to shorten the bridle, shorten the bridle. What you don't want is for this antenna to be sagging or twisted or lying against anything that will affect the SWR. So metal roofing or perhaps wet roof tiles. It's a compromised antenna, but give it every effort you can to make sure the thing is erected correctly. So you want the 6 meters of wire to be stretched out and not twisted, with the plastic pole vertical fastened to the end where you'll feed the coax. Run it out through the loft or other roof space or wherever it's going to go, and fasten the other end off. If you need to change the length of that bridle, change the length of that bridle. That won't matter. It's just there for you to support it. So then at the hot end, where you're going to be feeding the RF into here, you've got the Bantenna unun. So simply put that onto there and screw it in, and then use this piece of cord here. Is when you get it, is fastened around the counterpoises. If you undo that, it's just looped on like that. Tie the counterpoise to this mast here, and you can either just literally just tie it around that line there, tie a knot off, and then as you hang that antenna, the weight of the unun will hold it vertically. If you make that cord shorter than this, then obviously there's no strain on the feed point. But that weight of the unun is designed to hold the mast vertically. And then you've got these counterpoises. They're about 5 meters long. Undo the counterpoises, there's 2 of them. You can either stretch them out across the roof space, or you can simply unbunch them and put them on the floor. They don't need to be in a straight line. So have a play. If you can't get them in a straight line, you can't. If you can, you can. So much the better. And then feed it through the SO239. The unun in there will take about 150 watts, 100 to 150 watts. You may not want to run that into your loft, but give it a go. So there we are. That's the Loftenna. As it comes, it looks a mess. It's not. It's coiled and it's bunched. If you get into an unholy mess with this, remember that these cords, the bridle lines, are tied on. You can untie them, pull them out, lay the thing on the floor. It's one continuous loop, okay, so it will not get into an untieable mess. You might loop it around itself if you get it wrong, but if you untie it as I've shown you, as it comes to you, it will not get looped and knotted. You do not need to cut this wire or start taking it out of the masts, okay? You just don't need to do that. Have a bit of patience and it'll work fine. I hope you enjoy it. Every one of them is tested. They all work. I get reports on Reverse Beacon Network, but I would like user reports back if you've got any. Anyway, there we are. That's the Loftenna. Thanks for buying it, and I hope you enjoy it.